What are you going to get here today? All right, we are not here, I am not here to teach you oratory. That's not it. What I'm here to teach you are some specific skills and proven techniques that will help you communicate better, specifically with the media, using the media as an intermediary to tell your story. That's all we're going to do here today. 99% of the journalists that you're going to deal with are professional. They're trying to get the story right. In fact, their name is on there. So they don't like to get the facts wrong. There are a variety of reasons why that'll happen. We'll touch on some of these today. If you have questions about that I don't answer, please ask them. Okay? But I think it's like any other profession, and we all deal with media here every day. It's that 1% that either don't pay attention to detail or the way they conduct themselves think some 60 minutes kind of things where they've got an agenda going in and they're not telling an unbiased story. They give the rest of the group a bad name. And I would say that probably applies to any profession. You've got a group that are out there to do that. So remember that. Most of them are honest, fair. They want to write a balanced story because their name's on the top of it. And they don't want to get it wrong. So our job is to help them not get it wrong. Let's help them get it right. The second part in spokesperson preparation is this. We got to look at the media. All right? What's the media outlet? Have they done anything on this before? And is there a specific journalist who's asking you? Maybe you took a call from a journalist. What else have they done? It's obvious in the clip that I just showed you, Bob Newhart did not do his homework before he signed up for that interview. He didn't understand the outlet. He did not go back and look at Ruth Corley's approach. So he had no idea what he was walking into with that interview. That's the things you got to think about. Now the media world is changing in terms of outlets. You got all these kind of things, which is kind of an evolution from this old kind of thing, but they're still out there right now, and there's forms of all of them. So when you think about, you'll still hear me say, if you're talking to a print journalist, well, I'd be hard-pressed to come up with an example right now of a newspaper that's out there that doesn't have a digital presence, an electronic presence. That's just the way it is now. So we used to talk about this thing about when a journalist calls, they've got a 5 o'clock deadline because they've got to finish it in the next couple hours, and by midnight it goes to the printer, and then the paper delivery person delivers it at 5 in the morning, so it's ready for everybody to read. It doesn't work that way anymore. The 24-hour news cycle we now refer to as the 24-second news cycle. Because, and you may have seen this, if you talk to a journalist, they'll start that story immediately, and you might see the first 2 paragraphs appear within 30 minutes. It's already online. Check back in a few hours, it's been updated, it's a few more paragraphs. The next morning, you open your newspaper, and there's the whole story. Okay? That's the process now. Well, what does that require from us as storytellers? We got to be responsive. You got to be ready to engage media because their deadlines are much faster. And if you want to get your voice in the story, you can't say, hey, great, thanks for calling. I have been working on that. Let me schedule you 2.5 weeks from now where we can sit down and talk. They're off to the next story and we've missed our window. So sometimes the windows are small. Proactively, we have a little more control because now we're taking a good story idea to them and can say, hey, we've already done this body of work. Are you interested? I'm available tomorrow and the rest of the week. Let's set a time. I'd be glad to sit down with you and explain it to you. Okay? So you got to think about it both ways. Is it proactive or is it reactive? Now, as you're working through that process, like I already told you, we're here to help you. Don't feel like you're out there on your own thinking, hey, I wonder if this story's any good. Would media be interested in this story? You got a whole bunch of us you can call and ask us those questions. We'll look at it and help you. All right, what else do you want to do? Well, I mentioned this earlier. Be ready to help reporters do their job. Okay? So you as a spokesperson, you're ready to talk about this issue. Here's what we're finding, especially with regard to research and science in particular. Only the top agenda-setting media outlets So think big, New York Times, science, right? Only that level have the budget to keep good science writers on staff now. Most of the others have hemorrhaged so bad, their staff is more junior, and they're less experienced. So that's part of your analysis. You know, if you're talking to the New York Times science writer, you can talk up here a little bit more. Because that person, I guarantee, has been covering science for a long time, has a better understanding than a lot of people out there. And the only reason they got that job is they have that unique ability to take that, they can take that detailed journal, you know, the actual research paper, and they can translate that into a very readable story. That's why they got that job. So you can talk to those folks up here. Don't expect that from most journalists you're going to deal with. They're going to be less experienced, and they're going to be very, very worn out and run ragged, because they may cover a train wreck in the morning, and then they went and covered some kind of wedding right around lunchtime, and now they've come to you to talk about this great piece of research. And they may not have done a lick of homework or understand any of the background on it. So be prepared to help them. How do you help them? A couple different ways. Make sure right off the bat you've got it boiled down into something that's easily digestible for them. What do I mean by that? You got a 200-page report. Well, do you have the abstract for that? Or have you boiled that down into more of an executive summary thing? That would help. Don't let them wade through it, because that's going to do two things to them. One, it's got too much information, and two, you're forcing them to try to pick what the most important part of that is. Don't leave it up to them. Do it for them. Second part is, you can have a list of some highlighted bullet things that backstop what it is that your research is about. So you've summarized your research for them, and now give them those nice pieces to support them, that break it down for them. We'll talk a little bit about those pieces later. Okay? That way you're helping them. So think about them coming in without having any knowledge or background on what you're doing. Now some may, but if you default to there, you'll be okay. All right, you want to control the logistics of an interview, which basically means you can probably do everything you need to do in 30 minutes. You don't want an interview to drag on, but you don't want to be too short either. So if you've pitched a story and said, hey, I've got this great piece of work here that I think's got some cool results, I think it's a good story, you know, when you set the interview time, set it for 30 minutes, and you can pick the venue. Think about that. Do you need to be in your office where it's quiet? Can you hold all your calls from there? Can you keep your interruptions out of there so you can walk them through the story and the talking points that you have? We'll talk about talking points in a minute. All right? Think about those things. You heard me say just a second ago that you're in control. All right? You are in control. The journalist isn't in control. The journalist is going to have a lot of questions, but they want the information that you have. So you're in control of the flow of the information from you. We're going to talk about how you use that flow of information, but remember that. You deserve the courtesy that they should give you of having the information, and that they want that from you. Now you, on the other hand, give them the professional courtesy of they're trying to tell a story, and they want access to the information. So, yeah, you'll grant it to them, but here's some of the guidelines in the flow that we need to think about as the spokespeople.